But what you were saying, George, about the technology, right? Um, Cass sent me a text yesterday. Your voice mailbox is full, right? And I checked. I have over 200 voicemails on my phone. But Cass and I kid each other because I have an iPhone 7 and he has an iPhone 6,
That's
right?
funny.
Yeah.
You know, I find the same thing. It's like with my email and my photos and my voicemail. I never even check. And then I look in the memory storage every once in a while, and it's like your messages make up like 13% of your storage, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
that's because I haven't deleted anything in 5 years.
Which means that none of us are as important as we might want to think we are,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Right? Because without us replying to whatever or making sure that we have our email inbox. Look, you think I have? Let's see, one, two, three, four, five. I guess we could call them active email addresses. One of them probably has 60,000 messages in it. And I thought I was bad. But I noticed, do you know a guy named Carlos Redlick? You know who he is?
Yeah.
He's got 100,000 emails in his inbox. Okay. Right.
But it's also
So
the nature of what he does, though, right? I mean, it's the nature of like his market, the way his business models.
don't be fooled by that. He's just a goofball. Don't be fooled by that. Right. I'm just saying that because I know he's on here. Right.
Yeah.
In fact, we went live a few minutes ago. I know you noticed that. It's just that I feel, George, like I know you already. And so it's like, well, just let people chime in on the conversation that I'm having with my good friend George. But let me be official and welcome everyone to the Jeet Kune Dialogues episode number 314 with George. Now, what is the correct pronunciation of your last name?
It's like chamber without the M, so it's Chaber.
Ah,
I'm Middle Eastern, so I think that when my family was in the old country, it was like Shabli, and when they
right.
came to Ellis Island, it became Chaber. Which is funny because for years I never met anyone who was outside my family. I have a big family. My father was had 8 brothers and sisters and tons of
Okay.
cousins, extended
Okay.
family. And then when I owned my martial arts school, some woman came in had the same last name. I came to find out that Chaber is also a Polish name. It means flower, and it's pretty common in Poland.
Right.
But for 30 something years, I never ever heard anyone else with that name. So everyone gets it wrong and says chamber,
Right.
but yeah, Chaber.
When when I had my school, I enrolled a kid named Stephen Woods. Then I met his dad, Dwight Woods.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm one of, what's funny is with mine, I'm one of like there's like 15 Georges in our family, to the point of where I had cousins and uncles who had nicknames and I never even knew their name was George. But also I'm Eastern Orthodox, so Saint
Right.
George is a church saint, is very very like big, and
Right.
so I pretty much named after the saint and stuff. So, but my dad's a
Okay.
George. I have cousins. I have uncles. But it stopped with my son because my wife was like, "Absolutely not. You're not getting a third. That's done. No way."
So what's his name?
His name's Owen.
Okay. I hope he doesn't grow up and go, Dad, what happened?
No, I think his middle name is George. We named him Owen
Okay.
George, but
Okay.
I got that. But I'm like, I want a junior. I want a third. She was like, Nah, you're
Well,
not happening.
hey, but that reminds me of the whole George Foreman saga.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, but that's what's
Right.
funny when I remember, back when he fought again later on, and they were talking about his kids, and I was like, yeah, I sort of have an idea of
Yep.
that.
Yep. Yeah. So before you sent me the little questionnaire thing that I sent you,
Hmm.
I didn't do any NSA level snooping. I just did like Facebook snooping. And here's what I determined. There was a school in Connecticut.
Yep.
Chuck Giangreco plays a role. there's something going on with you and the Magda people. Um, uh, Carlos Castro, I think, plays a role. Tri-State Martial Arts plays a role. Maybe even Rafi Derderian and Kevin Seaman,
Yeah,
and now you live in Arizona. How did I
yeah,
do? How did I
yeah.
do?
You did good. To break it down, Chuck and Kara, G and Greco, everything that I've done in the martial arts as far as with JKD, Kali, Sela, the people I've met, even doing practicing kettlebells. If it wasn't for Chuck and Kara as well, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't have met Guru Harley. I wouldn't be an instructor under Guru Dan. So all credit and the respect goes to them. I love them.
Well, shout
They're
out to
family.
Chuck because
And
he just
Chuck just
made
got
his.
his full instructor.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think Chuck is on here, and I think Kara's on here. But I love them. They're like my brothers and sisters. So I wish I could see them more often. But yeah, absolutely, everything that I did. To make a long story short,
Come on,
I
let's do the
I
long story.
the long story of how I got sort of into JKD is I always for some had a fascination with C Lot. Now I have a love hate relationship with it. And at the time, this is I think like maybe late '90s or something like that. And there was nothing. And Connecticut's sort of like dead as far as anything like those arts. And so I had heard about Monfalindo. I don't even know how. I think I just searched it online. And at the time, I don't think, there was the internet, but it wasn't like social media and everything. And at the time, the Inosano Academy had every instructor listed. Remember back in the day when you were there, it had their email, their
Yep.
website. They had, you could have a phone. I mean, Damon Carroll was on there, Chad Stahelski, people like you could never get a hold of now. I think like, Rick Young, everybody.
Hmm.
And I literally found the contact email and wrote, and Paula Inosanto, of all people, wrote back and said, "Hey, we have no one in the area. Best of luck to you if you ever want to come to the academy." And then there was a gentleman in Long Island, Charles Chai, and he was doing Monday Mood. I said, "Well, I'll go there."
Okay.
And he trained with him for a short while, did private lessons because it was a long drive, and he had an Iburita seminar, Iburita Sawanda,
Uh-huh.
because Irma Swan had already passed.
Right.
And I went to the seminar, and lo and behold, Chuck was there. And I was like, still looking for things. I was finding somebody. And one of the guys I know who I was working with, oh, you should talk to Chuck. And Chuck was like, oh, you want to do this and do the Monfalindo? I have a school in Westchester. And that was like 45 minutes away. So I started going down to the school and doing private lessons on that. And then I'd had a really sort of bad experience with Filipino martial arts because I was doing modern use with my old Kempo teacher. He smashed my hands like I was like actually had post traumatic stress, like just whacked my hands every time we did a drill. And to the point I was like, is this this is what it's supposed to be about? And
Right.
Chuck was sort of like, I really think you should do the Kali. I think you'll like the Kali. I think it will make you a much better martial artist. He didn't say it in those nice words. He pretty much says you suck. You need to do Kali. So uh, that's Chuck. I mean, reality. And I started doing it and I fell in love with it. And then I had no intention of ever wanting to be an instructor. I just was like liked it. I was doing Kempo at the time too, and had no intention. And again, Chuck being the influence he was, he says, "Now I really think you should, go under Harley. You should become an instructor." And never with the intention of ever being under Guru Dan. And he had Harley out, and I met him, and he did the whole curriculum. So it was JKD, Muay Thai. I had to start learning Muay Thai and Kali and everything, and that sort of like started that journey. And then once I went with Harley again, who's a huge influence. I'm not as active in his organization anymore, but again, I wouldn't be an instructor. He was the one who recommended me to Guru Santo,
Okay.
him and Chuck. And that's the only reason I'm an instructor. I think that's important to give respect to your teachers. And, everyone acts like osmosis. They show up at the academy and Guru Dan, like, drops down on one knee. But we know that's not the reality how things work.
Right.
And that was basically the journey. And then with Guru Dan, and I want to make this very clear to everybody. So the relationships. A lot of people overstate their relationships with Guru Nosanto. You know this, having been in the organization for 40 plus years. You have a very different relationship with him. You could go at his academy. He will say, "Hey, Dwight, let's go have lunch." let's, you discuss things like almost a father-son relationship. I have more of a relationship, as I tell people, as like a great-great-grandfather. He knows who I am. He remembers my names. He remembered my name. I did a flow drill with Joey Morana at his instructors camp. I almost lost my leg. He called me by my name. He still forgets that I'm not in Connecticut. So when I show up at the academy, every time when there's a class, he stops the class. You got to be dedicated, like the distance he traveled. And I'm like, Guru, it was only 6 hours. It's not Connecticut, but like the relationship I have with Guru is different because I'm not coming in and getting direct instruction. It's the influence of him. It's like being a grandfather figure more so than a father figure. So that's why I always tell people, yes, he's my instructor, and I love him and have ultimate respect. But it's a very different relationship than I had with Harley and I have currently with Chuck and Kara. And so I think it's important to give that type of respect because I think sometimes people get an instructorship under Guru Nasanto, they were with somebody, and it's almost like that person doesn't matter anymore. It's like, oh, he's my teacher, and we all know that like it's a different relationship. He's not going to pull me aside in a seminar and spend 20 minutes drilling things. So it's more like me wanting to make sure that I'm in a position where I'm in this interview to give the respect to those are my teachers, to Chuck and to Kara and to Guru Harley. So
that's a quality move. That's a quality move right there. So there's so many things in what you were saying that reminded me of stuff. One, I saw Chuck and Kara in Dallas a couple months ago, and Chuck and I demoed, and people thought that he and I trained together. We had never done anything together.
it's funny. You know what's funny? How I heard about you. I don't know how you came up in conversation. Harley said you were one of the fastest people he's ever stood in front of. He said Dwight in his prime was like lightning, like grease lightning, like unbelievably fast twitch. Um, that's how I first heard about you because I forgot. Like I don't, you know what
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, right. Well, I now when I move, like just a funny aside, I went to pick my daughter up at school, and I got, she's like, you have to cross she's in middle school, you got to cross like a crossing guard area and go over to that, and I walked up to her, and she was embarrassed. I thought she was embarrassed because oh, he's my dad. I don't want to see my dad. She's like, Dad, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm walking normal. She's like, you look bad. And I was like, oh my God. No, I was like, am I really moving that bad? Like in front of your friends? Like I'm walking like a cripple. So yeah, we all get there, But but yeah, like that's the first time I think I heard of you was like through Harley. Like he just said, like he was just and skillful too. I have a deep respect for all the first, what I consider like the first generation of instructors under Guru Dan and second level instructors because you guys paved the way. It wasn't, people take for granted being able to walk into a school, go 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week, have a question answered, directly go back to the school and have it. It's very different when you're coming from Miami, Rick Young's coming from Scotland, Rick Faye's coming from Minnesota, people are coming from Washington State, Michigan, wherever. You have to go. You have to take this dump truck of information, and you got to go back, and you have to decipher it and work it, and then come back again and show that improvement. It's a journey that I think is a lot of people don't experience as much anymore. And I have a deep respect for that because that paved the way for all of us to be able to do what we're doing. So,
well, I tell people, my students hear me say this all the time, that if you've been within Asano for the past 20 years, all credit to you. That's a great achievement. But it means that you've been with him since he was 68 years old. So there's a lot that you have missed.
Right, I agree.
So you should be best friends with somebody who was there. So that's why I try to be close to people like Chris Kent. Chris Kent met Dan Inosanto when Inosanto was 36 years old.
Right. And it's funny because I feel like when you're in your, at least I forgot I think there might be a Japanese term for it, but in Koru arts, traditional Japanese arts, they say the prime time is in your 40s because you are seasoned enough mentally and emotionally mature enough to teach the art at a certain level, but your physical skills have not degraded. You're sort of still almost right out of your prime. And I really wish I could have been a fly on the wall to see that, because I think that just to see Guru Dan move at that level,
Yeah,
um, yeah, you need people that have been there. I think everyone acts like they
I
invented
met
something.
I met him
Everyone
on.
acts like they invented Huba, they invented Sombrad. Like, you didn't invent anything. You
Yeah,
didn't invent these things.
yeah,
That's the other thing I want to say. I think that very misunderstanding of Guru Dan as a teacher and as a outlay of the curriculum is that because of seminars, and because a lot of people don't have, that's why, again, I was very lucky. Harley has a very deep understanding of the college system. Maybe there might be people that have more, maybe less, but from my experience, and so it wasn't just like, here's one for one who, but here's the list, here's the way to drill it, here's the way to understand, this is the application of it, here's the weapon systems and how they work. A lot of people don't. There's people that are instructors under Guru Dan and don't even know the stages of Sambrata, the
yeah.
stages of the Bisudario. They don't know range, timing,
Right.
angles. And I feel like if you're a teacher, you got to be able to take a student and improve them, not just in technique, but how do I train my attributes? How do I train myself mentally and physically to improve what I have? Not constantly accumulating, but I want to take what I have and make it that much better. That's what an instructor, that's what Guru Dan did for you. That's what you do for your students. And I feel like too many people get caught up, oh, he doesn't teach this and he doesn't do that. You know what you
Well,
know.
okay,
That's
so
all.
listen. So you're talking about this on quite a deep level, right? I'm gonna make it a surface level joke. Harley Elmore has a deep understanding of Filipino Kali. Isn't he a white guy from Oklahoma?
I think he's from Arkansas originally.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
But you're
see,
right.
this
I mean,
is what Dan Inasano has done for the world. That
right,
is what people don't understand.
right. I mean, just to give a shout out, I mean, the people that are watching this already know. 20 years ago, there isn't a school in the United States, and maybe I can be proven wrong, but at least Brian Dobler said this when he talked about it. There wasn't a school in the United States that was not associated with Guru Dan teaching Muay Thai. That's the one art that I think he gets no credit for, because I know there was no one. All the people now, oh, we did Muay Thai, we did. No, you didn't. You did not. You did not do it before. Arjun Chai was here in 1968. The only people that were doing it were the JKD people.
The JKD.
Remy Prestis and Guru Dan are by far the two most important individuals for spreading Filipino martial arts in Europe, the United States, all over. And again, I don't feel like anyone's a deity. Like, there's too much of like deifying instructors. Guru Dan does not need that. He has foibles like we all do. But I think if people really understood his life and understood the financial difficulties he had, the familial difficulties he had, the things he had to overcome, just to get his training, the people don't realize how difficult it was. Teach school all day, get in your car on a Friday night, drive down to Stockton, train 10 hours a day. 10 hours a day. Get in your car late on a Sunday night, get into school, change in your parking lot, and go into classes and teach all day. Go back to your school to teach, make no money, barely making ends meet, because purely for the love of the art. Selling your drum kit so that you can, keep your school open. People don't understand, and I think when people attack his character, you don't have to agree with the martial arts, but when you attack his character, that upsets me. I think that's wrong, and I think that I think that that's where people, if they understood all the what he put into it, and
Right.
and the love he has for it,
Right.
I don't think they would be as callous as they are. And
Well, I think
that
they would
that
be.
that I just want to say that, regardless of what people have to say, I don't really give a rat's behind.
Right.
Really, that's how I feel.
Yeah. No, I think they would be because it serves their agenda.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so and I know, and other people out there. But when you watch the back and forth on the internet, you can tell these people have no idea. They've been fed a story by whomever. They like the story because it puts them in some position or whatever, and they have not a friggin' clue.
right,
So,
right,
so people ask me all the time, well, it must be frustrating for you or whatever. No, it's not. It's funny. It's funny
right.
because it is the perfect example of who knows and who doesn't know. So
Right.
if you don't know, I'm not going to waste my time getting pissed off at you because you're ignorant.
Right.
Right?
I think
So,
like
you know,
the thing is like at the end of the day, it you have to stand on your own feet, right? Whether it's negative or positive, what you teach, you have to stand on your own feet. I have a saying I always do at seminars. I say, if you like what I teach, thank my teachers. If you don't, blame me. And people need to take that responsibility. It's like, again, going back to drills. Oh, who bud's useless? Sombrada's useless. This one's useless. This drill's useless. No, you're useless, right? Because are you taking the time to understand why they're being taught and
right,
what it's about? And again, you might be ignorant of it because you don't have access to that information. But once you do, that's on you, right? Once Chuck shows me something and says, this is the way that we do it, you have to work this and find that. Then it becomes my responsibility, right? If I don't do it, I don't have a right to blame Chuck or blame Harley or blame Guru Dan. People do that all the time in the martial arts. They blame Cass. Oh, well, Cass didn't teach this, or whoever, Greg didn't teach this. And I want to give a few shout outs.
go.
I know you know Nathan Maroney. He is a phenomenal martial artist and a very good friend of mine. But we got to get him on here one day. He's one of the best martial artists I know. He's amazing.
He
And that's
ignores
sort of
me
like
all
how
the
I
time.
found Magda. Just to get the Magda thing. I know I have ADD here. So Nate is a Magda student. And if Koss ever listens to any of these, he needs to really do more social media and more videos. He really does. I mean, people need to know this guy. All right. So Sifu Koss, I know you don't. Anyone in your school listen to this, please shoot more videos. You're not gonna water down the art. We all want to see you. It's time to come out of the shadows. But needless to say, when I moved to Arizona, Ryan Chafin, who you did an interview with, Nate's like, hey, he's out there. You should, get together with him. And we did. And Ryan is the chillest, coolest, nicest, most sincere guy. And we train. He shows me things. I show him things. We love each other. I mean, it's a really good relationship. So I haven't made it out to the Magda Institute, but I have a lot of respect for him. I obviously know how skilled he is. I've heard from multiple people. He has more of the Kali system of Guru Dan than anyone. He has like 60%. That's saying something. And so, yeah, I mean, that's how I made those relationships. But yeah, I don't have a problem with speaking my mind about how I feel with these. I feel that there's been a concerted effort to write Guru Dan out of the JKD history books. Harley said to me 20 something years ago, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. What brought somebody up? And as I've watched it more and more, it's come to attention. And I don't think listen, no one needs to, you could have an opinion of how he teaches or what he teaches. But again, you have to have facts straight.
Right.
You can't speak in a way where, like I said, they've tried to belittle his time with Bruce Lee. They've tried to say he doesn't teach Filipino martial arts. He teaches his interpretation. You know what I don't give a damn what his interpretation is. I like it. All right. And this is something I'm going to say to everybody who's watching. We have a limited amount of time on this earth, right? And we should spend it with the people we love, the people that matter to us, and pursuing the things that we enjoy doing. And if you're doing the art and it speaks to you, who cares what it is? Except make sure that you're being ethical in the way you present it, honest in the way you're presenting it, be truthful and respectful. Outside of that, who cares? And these guys who are attacking people, attacking their character and saying this, and he's 88 years old, or attacking like you or other people who have been in the arts for years, or anybody, even from other lineages, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous waste of time. And it's better spent to be sharing ideas on how to train, philosophies of training, and bettering all of us. Because like I said, we're just not going to be around that long. And what you really think our kids or our students underneath us to argue about this? No, we all want to get better and want to have a good time. That's it.
Yeah. When Ron Reagan and I first went out to LA, very first trip, I go, Ron, if I'm going to do right by you, there's just one person I got to take you to meet. And we went to see Cass, right?
Yeah.
And we're there, and Ron feels the vibe. And Ron goes, oh, look, he's got 2 seminars coming up. Let's sign up for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something to say for those old school guys. You're in that level too. I mean, when
I'm kind of in that level, because I started in '83. But
You are,
I,
yeah. I mean,
I,
you may have not been at the academy, but I mean,
my,
83 is still 40 years ago, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
I
but
mean, I mean, we were all nothing then. So I think there's just some, you can't replicate what those guys got. You just can't.
right,
Even if you come to the academy now, you can't replicate that. It was a different time. It's like why when I tell people you can't be Guru Dan, you'd have to have the same life experiences. You'd have to have the same teachers. You
right,
know, you just you can seek what he sought, but you can't. And I don't think he'd want that. You know, it's like he's done a great job, I feel, and have it's a double-edged sword, right? Having his level of disorganization can be bad, but what's good about it is everyone's pursued what they've wanted to pursue. They've created their organizations, and there's less chance of infighting about who's going to lead what. And it's just beautiful. Some
yeah,
people are doing this, some people are doing that, some people are expressing it in this way. That's what you want. And people, for the most part, from what I've experienced, get along. They like each other. I mean, I don't. There's not these big battles within the Santo Instructor Association like you do in others. And if like anything, I just feel like everyone should just feel blessed and happy to be able to train with them and still be able to train with them. And like I
mhm,
said, just enjoy that time. The time
yep,
is just short in life. That's it.
yep, yeah. I mean, he to me, he in some regards, he epitomizes the ability to be detached from it all, right? Like he's. I asked him years ago, who takes over when you're gone? He goes, oh, I want everybody to be in charge.
Right.
I'm
Exactly.
like, okay, right? Because and that's a typical Inosano answer, because he wouldn't want to him if he says, okay, this person is going to be in charge. To him, that's like saying this person is the one who's got it all. This other person is not as whatever. And he could never do that because he values individualism so highly
Right.
that he would never pick one person over the other. There's a funny clip. It is for Jeff Imada's Balasong videos. And Sifudan is being interviewed. And he says, well, if I had a favorite student, and I have many favorite students, then yes, Jeff would be a favorite student.
Oh, that's a Guru Danism. Yeah, that's the best.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's why I came up with the term Inasano speak. You have to understand what he's saying when he
Right.
says what he says. Because if you think that Dan Inasano communicates on the level of A is A, you don't understand Kali.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay?
and too. I mean, he's had so many teachers, so many students. You're inevitably, if you answer in any other way, you're going to offend people or cause a rift. So it makes no sense. But yeah, I mean, he's always the organization to me has always been open that way. And
Yeah.
like I said, it's like I always use the example of like he gives you enough rope that you can hang yourself or you can climb
Yes.
with, right?
Yes.
And
Exactly. Very good.
that
I like that.
and
I think I might
that's why I
steal
think
that.
it's up to students to
Yeah.
take that responsibility to really look at what they're doing, what they're learning, and ask questions of themselves and others, and how to train it, how to develop it, and how to do it. I see that Bob Landers here said, "Who is this guy?" You could tell Bob that as many people know me as know you. So I guess that's yeah. I'm as well known as you are, Bob. Um, but
I'm not even looking at that that stream.
but
It's so ridiculous.
yeah, yeah, I'm as well known as you are, man. But
Okay.
no, like I said, going back to it, it's like we all do what we do because we have a certain love and passion for it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you're not owning a school or you're doing it as a side thing in balancing it between your family and your other things that you're doing. I mean, you gotta love it, And like I said, that's more important, I think, than all the strife, you
Right.
know. And connections. I think the social net, like connections of training are some of the greatest things I've gotten from it, is meeting the people I've met. And I mean, listen, all the things that I rail against, I've been a narcissist. I've been egotistical. I've been quick to anger. All the things I'm like, oh, we should be nice to people. I've been all those things, right? But having, hopefully, God willing, learning as I've gotten older, it's just too short. This moment on earth is so minuscule that spending that time being negative or oh, I'm better than you. Who cares? Just
Yeah.
focus on the important stuff and
Yeah.
train, man.
It's a fair amount of discipline, I think, to not spout off, especially when somebody, right, says something. And I watch these people on Facebook, and it's like, in one instance, it's like nobody, like, they don't use the brain cells. So if I see a guy say something, my brain goes, oh, that's that guy, that's his name, this is how he talks. So the next time he says something, I have him in a file, right?
Yeah. Rolodex, yeah.
So the next time he says something, I go, okay, I get where he's coming from. But another guy, right, sees what he says and takes him literally. But I have worked out that this guy is never to be taken literally, because that's just how he rolls.
Right.
So I sit back and I watch all of them get upset. But anyhow, it's all ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, some of my very good friends, and even people I don't see on a normal basis, but like, Carlos Castro.
I know his name.
Carlos is like literally was my training partner. We tested our instructorship under Harley together, and we got our instructorship at the same time. And then the other individual is Joey Morano, who is just he's just a great human being. I mean, that's the best way to describe him. He's just like a great human being. He's a great guy. And
I would make a good detective, wouldn't I?
But have you talked to Joey at all? Joey is he's a
Joey
great.
interviewed me years ago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He's just like him and Carlos within the organization. I mean, they're my brothers. I mean, they've been super helpful to me. Like, making those types of relationships I never would have made if I had not been in the martial arts.
Right.
I mean, and there's some of the best relationships that you can have. So, I mean, like I said, that's what training done right with the right people can do for you. But I've never been a believer that martial arts in and of itself makes you a better person. I've met too many people, and the historical record will tell you. I mean, there's a lot of people that just were straight killers, drunks, womanizers, misogynistic. I mean, had slaves. I mean, these were not all good people who were. The fact that you can beat somebody or kill somebody does not make you necessarily a good person, right?
Not at all.
Martial arts, if anything, enhances what you have. So hopefully, God willing, you have some good character underneath that. So I've never bought into that. But when it's done right by the right system instructors, it's a vehicle for self-improvement. But I think we overstate that sometimes. I'm not into the ego crap where people are like, oh, it changes everything. No, it's not. The work has to be done by you, and you have to be in the right environment. So
yeah. Okay, so since you mentioned school and teaching and what have you, tell me about Bethel.
Oh, I had the school in Bethel for like 20 years. It was called the Bethel Academy of Martial Arts. So it was mostly kids. It was like I had a small adult program, but it was kids. It was tough getting adults. But it was mostly kids. But we did the whole curriculum. So we did grappling. We did like a submission grappling. We did a collie program, and the kids loved it. We used pad weapons. Did a lot of sparring. We did a striking program where we did Thai boxing type stuff, JKD, and I'm sorry, Jun Fan kickboxing for those. Okay, so yeah, right. But we did that, and I had that till about right around the pandemic, and that helped like put it under. And I was just like toward the end, I was burnt out myself. And so when we moved out here, I just wasn't ready to do a school, and I'm still not. I pretty much just going to do things out of my garage. I have a few students, I have some people I get together with and train, and that's the way I'm going to do it, because I don't really want to go into the avenue of having kids again, even though I think it's a valuable thing. I just want to keep it small, develop training partners, work with some people, and if it organically grows, I'm okay with that. So, but yeah, I had the school for a full-time school for like close to 20 years and taught within the school even before that. So that was my main thing. But it when it came to an end, it was sort of like I was ready. I was ready to do some other stuff. So
Mhm. So I remember talking to Harley, and was it 400 students that he had? I'm trying to
um
remember. It was like
I think he
400.
does that. He had somewhere in that neighborhood. He has a
Right,
very big. He has like an after school program that he does, which
right,
he has a lot of the kids get bussed in.
right.
But he has a very successful school, and I think it's predominantly kids for the most part. I mean, he has a decent adult program, but it's mostly kids. He's
Yeah.
got a really good program, and what I like about his program, it really is. He's not trying to do like the latest trend. He's not like, you're not coming in and doing just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or just Thai boxing. He has he teaches SIOC, he teaches the Drew dance system. So he has a really legit program. I mean, Harley's just a really he's a renaissance man is the best way to describe him. He has physical skills, unbelievably impeccable physical martial arts skills, but he has soft skills. I mean, communication skills. I mean, knowledge about fixing things, mechanical skills, survival skills, master level teacher. So I can't say enough about. It's not just the ability to kick butt and teach that, but the other thing. And Chuck's the same way. I mean, he has a wide breadth of knowledge about things. So like I said, I was lucky to really be with them and get that now get that bug. That
Did,
bug bit me and it never stopped. So
right. Yeah. Did you guys ever discuss like the ins and outs of what makes a successful school, especially within the realm of what we teach?
yes, and I did everything opposite, and that's why I no longer have a school. So um, yeah, I pretty much dive bombed everything that they said to do. All joking aside, I should have incorporated more. Chuck's school has transformed a few different times, in like his approach to what he's doing,
Yeah.
but he's been successful at each one that he's done. He's transformed it and done quite well at it. Whereas I think Harley's is and I don't want to speak incorrectly, but he's kept sort of a similar track in what he's teaching and how he's doing it. I think the principle, like looking back on the mistakes I made now, if I did it, I really do understand what I did wrong. You learn from your mistakes. It's simple but not easy, right? I think the hardest part of today now with the school is just how do you market? The marketing is so different because of social media algorithms and getting on TikTok things, or do you use Instagram? But the nuts and bolts of, okay, who are you losing? Who are you retaining? How's your curriculum? How are your pricing structure? Where's your population? That stuff doesn't change too much, at least from what I've seen and what I've investigated in our area. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, he used to do those. Not Chuck more so than Harley, but yeah, and I had EFC. There was things at Maya at the time.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think now there's more understanding of like what Drew Dan's approach was, because now Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, MMA, and Thai boxing is so big, which is a predominantly adult oriented martial arts. And for a long time, Drew Dan's was the cutting edge stuff. And that if you were an adult and you had access to it, that's what you were doing. Right. If you were a serious martial arts. Now it's a little bit different. That's taken over. So now, like those schools that are doing it, the New Breeds of the world, Nick Sikoulas' school, there's many others I can name, that they've benefited from the fact that now, having that type of technology, and approach, and especially like I said, adult population, now it's a little bit more ubiquitous.
Mhm.
There was a time where it was very, 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 very challenging to find anyone who taught Guru Dan's art.
Yeah.
Now that's partially why also too, I think from the teaching perspective, where people go, oh, he doesn't teach this, he doesn't need to as much, because he expects you to come to a seminar, get material, and find a qualified person within your area that you can continue that day-to-day training with. And
Right.
that's much more applicable now than it was, 1990, 1980.
Yeah. In the
They're everywhere now.
90s, JKD sold itself. It
Yeah.
really did. It sold itself, And then John Graydon and the folks at NAPMA started cardio karate, cardio kickboxing, and got out of their uniforms with their belts and put T-shirts on and kept their sneakers on. And I thought, well, that's us,
Mm-hmm.
right? But these guys were tremendous marketers, right? In fact, I thought of something. I thought, actually, I can show it to you. I was on the train, and right there you'll see JKD Dialogues 313, right? I was making notes, and here's the thing. The train goes by my friend's school. The big sign says karate. Under it says Better Families Through Taekwondo, which is the actual name of the school. But the big sign says karate, right?
Right.
And
I mean, most people only
turn
think
that
of it.
into a question for George.
Well, you know what? Most people are less educated on martial arts than we think. We're involved in this. Most people still don't know the difference between styles and systems. So they're going to look for karate. Even with something like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they still don't really understand what they're about, especially a parent looking for a child. So if you put karate, I mean, listen, my own family doesn't know. I mean, except for I told you my story about my daughter. She tells everybody. She goes to school. My dad trains with Bruce Lee's best friend. I mean, she's making it seem like I'm Joel or something. Like I'm traveling on the plane with them. I'm like Jesus, and but like most people don't know, even if I bring up Guru Dan, I mean, if someone recognizes him and knows it, I know they're serious martial artists, right? Like I know, like, oh, you know who he is, right? And it's not for me to name drop, but like people ask, oh, who you train with? I'll say, oh, Dan Santo. He was training partners with Guru Dan. I mean, with Bruce Lee. He's got an academy in Los Angeles. Most people don't know, right? But if they do, I usually know they're educated in the martial arts at least, right?
Yeah.
But most average people, it's a very small percentage of people are still participating in the martial arts. And out of that, the average person coming to you, they just don't know. They want to get in shape. They want to learn some self-defense. It's all the things we think of. We make fun of that type. Well, we want to teach this or that, but they really want the basic stuff. They want more confidence. They want to, like I said, get away from the kids, get a little less stress in their life. Right. And so to them, they're just looking at movement, right? They're not even looking at like, is this so-and-so. The only time I think that is changed is now with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Most people, at least from what my teachers have said or people I've talked to, they tend to be a little bit more knowledgeable. So they'll go in, they're looking for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They're not like, hey, I'm just looking to get in shape and I saw you're in the closest school. They'll seek that out. But right. Most other schools, a lot of times it's location and just convenience of schedule and so forth. But yeah, I mean, for the longest time, I mean, our name was before Bethel Academy was Karate America. And the reason it was just like, you know what? That's what people are looking for. It's still what I think still the number one Google search. I think is still up there as far as martial arts.
Yeah, which to me is just fascinating, and this is something I mention to people all the time. If you go into a room with 100 people in it, and you go, okay, how many people here know who Bruce Lee is? 99 of them are going to know who Bruce Lee is. Right. But only a couple of them are going to know what Jeet Kune is.
Right.
Right. And I think that is our fault, because somebody wants to get in shape. Isn't Bruce Lee a good example of somebody who's in shape?
Right.
Somebody wants more self-confidence. Isn't Bruce Lee a good example of self-confidence? Every desirable human quality that somebody would get into martial art in order to develop or enhance, Bruce Lee is a good example of it. So why didn't we ever learn how to, because it benefits to be associated with an icon. There's no two ways about it. So why didn't we ever learn how to associate what we're doing positively with that iconic figure? Instead, you know what we did? We argued about original and freaking concepts.
Yeah, I
That
agree. The problem with JKD in general is it is the number one misunderstood martial art, not for what people think because of how Guru Dan taught or Ted Wong. That's not. But it is the one martial art that everybody who does not train it and has never done it thinks they understand what it is, an opinion on it. And I have never met. I've never met people in Taekwondo like this.
right.
You'd be laughed out of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym if you walked in, never trained Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai or a boxing gym. I know for a fact because I've been in them. And you walked in and said, yeah, I don't train, but I think that you should throw a corkscrew jab when the guy comes in. They'd look at you and be like, son, get the hell out of here.
Yeah,
Glove up right now. They
yeah,
choke you unconscious in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, but in JKD, for some reason, and all these forums, you have people that have never done a push-up in their life, never thrown a
yeah,
punch, never thrown a kick, never grappled, never sparred, and they want to pontificate.
yes,
Bruce Lee was a movie actor, but he also was a martial artist. And I feel that when it's a martial art, it's a participatory activity. This isn't football. Like I can
right.
understand you have an opinion on football, even though again, I'm not going to respect you as much as I respect the guy who played the game and coached the game. But I could understand it's not a participatory sport after a certain age. But there is no valid reason that you can't train a martial art. And if you're not participating and not teaching it in any capacity, then your opinion is just
Yeah,
not that important.
yeah,
Sorry. This is not some ancient thing that we can't do. You can do it. And,
right.
and I feel that with any art. I feel like if you're going to have an opinion of ground fighting or Brazilian Jiu Jitsu or sparring full contact, dog brother style, and you haven't done it, and you don't teach it and you don't do it, then your opinion is less. I'm not going to say less than zero, but it shouldn't be valued as much as someone who has done it. And that's a big problem in JKD. And you're right. We spent all this time arguing about it instead of showing, like I said, life is short. Show the beauty of this art, show the effectiveness of this art, and show how it can change people's lives. If you do that, people will come to you and
Right.
accept the fact that, listen, we may not be the hottest thing right now. We may never be again, but it doesn't mean you still can't do good by people, right? And there's people doing it. There's people doing it in original JKD, like a guy like you had on, John Paul Daly. Very good guy. I mean, I think he's phenomenal. And he shares excellent content to help try to make people better. And he doesn't get involved in the politics of it, right? And there's people on all different sides of it. And that's, in my opinion, again, who the hell am I? But I feel like that's what needs to be done because, listen, arts die off. You know,
Yeah,
things can easily die off if people spend more time on the wrong things. It's just like a garden. You don't cultivate it, you don't water it, you don't nurture it, and you spend time just on other things, it dies off. There's traditional kung fu systems and systems in Indonesia that are dying off because no one wanted to teach anyone. No one found the value of doing it, and now knowledge is gone. And it could happen with JKD. It could happen with any system that's out there. So again, I know I'm like talking and talking and talking, but like I don't know.
well, yeah, it's called an interview, George. You're supposed to talk.
Well, I promised myself too that I wasn't going to hold back. They're my opinions, but like I'm going to be loyal to my teachers. And I felt like I'm going to say how I feel, and I feel like the
Yeah,
martial arts. There's a lot of glad handing and bullshit, for lack of a better word. Everyone's like patting you on the back and pretending, like, and stabbing you in the back on the other thing. And there's no need to
right.
glad hand. Be who you are. Be true to who you are, and say it as it is. And it's like if
Yeah,
you're proud to be an instructor under Guru Inosanto, then be proud of it. Don't degrade other people. You don't need to. You don't need to make a stand like that, but be proud of it. And I think it's ridiculous when these guys jump on everybody for defending him. And it's like, well, it's like our father. Would you not defend someone who you respect and you love? You're going to let someone tell him he's a fraud, he's a crook, he's this. And like I said, not wanting to keep bringing Guru Dan into this, but I feel that if people understood him, met with him, talked to him, and understood his history, because there's a lot of suffering in that. Everyone thinks it's easy street. Oh, he's making all this money. You don't understand his life. You don't understand his life. You don't understand what he went through. He had a divorce, not having money, living with nothing before the academy was built, right? Um, Great. So you can't see him and take a picture with him, or he doesn't answer your question directly, or maybe he didn't. Maybe he did confuse JKD. You know what? That's a valid point. Maybe he did. Maybe he did misspeak and did that. We've all misspoken, but does that mean his character as a human being is such that you attack an 88-year-old guy? I mean, where I'm from, if you did that to an 88-year-old guy, someone would part of my English would bitch slap your ass, right? They would. I mean, if someone did it to my great uncle or something, I'd slap the hell out of them. But these people do it in a way, and I feel that anyone would feel the same way about Ted Wong and other people. So I just want to put that out there, that if I do that, it's because I have a love and respect, not because I deify him. Because I do think there's things that people can be critical of him. Absolutely. I mean, there's people that don't like certain ways he teaches or the material he teaches. That's valid. But it's not valid to attack someone's character. It's not valid to say, hey, he makes all this money. You make money. You don't go to work for free. You don't go if your boss says, hey, I want to give you a promotion and give you $50,000 extra on your paycheck. You, oh, no, sorry. We got to keep it real. But somehow in the martial arts, you're doing seminars, you're sharing this art, spreading it. And, a lot of people have gotten their start from having done JKD or being associated with it who don't give him credit. There's all these people that teach Pantukan and act like, oh, it came from this. They teach Hubud and it came from this. Guru didn't create Hubud. He created Hubud, right? Cass was there. He'll tell you this. I mean, I know this is controversial. He created it. That wasn't an ancient art. That was an ancient thing. That was a Saban Laro. That was something that he saw those parties doing something and said, wow, I wonder if I can make this a 4 count, right? And then lo and behold, Chris Can, Cosmogda, all these guys in the class, and they did it. And he gave this wonderful tool that we all have that has enhanced our lives. People steal it. People degrade it.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, listen, if you like what you do, find value in it, do it. The people that don't, they do what they do.
Yeah, shoot.
I mean, like I said, again, I'm going to go back to it. Life is too short.
We were in Georgia last weekend with Francis Fong. I used Hubud to understand his Wing Chun.
What's that?
I use Hubud to understand Francis Fong's Wing Chun.
Yeah, I don't speak bad words like Chi Sao. That's not in my vocabulary. I don't know if you saw that video. Guru Dan did that video. It's not new, but I shared it. I think it made the rounds again, but I think it might be a year or two. And I think he might be with Xiao. And I think they're doing Don Chi Sao. And at the very end, right before it cuts out, he does a Guru Danism, and he's like, oh, yeah, I don't usually do this because 80% of my, instructors and students hate this. They don't like it. And then it cuts out. And I put a little blurb under, I shared, and I put a little blurb like, Guru Dan, I don't know about 80% of your students, but this student 100% hates Chi Sao. It says, and you know why I hate it? Because I'm absolutely garbage at it. And I will admit it. Like, I'm garbage at it, so I hate it. I have no desire to get better at it because every time I do it, I just suck more. And that is my cross to bear. I admit that. But like he like when he does that, if he calls Chi Sao and it's an instructor's camp, my ear ball like gets moving. I usually go right to the bathroom at that point where I'm like, I'm not on the training floor right now.
Yeah. Are you going out to instructor conference next week?
No, I wanted to, but I wasn't able to. I think March of this year. That was supposed to go last March. I think I'm going to go March. I think that's when Carlos and Joey go. So that's my plan.
All right.
It's funny. I'm closer to LA than I was, but it's actually proven to be more challenging to get out there than it would have been if I had been on the East Coast.
Yeah. I'll see if I can make March of next year because I don't think I've been to an instructor conference in 15 years. So I'm way overdue for that. What about, so you guys did talk about what it takes to run a successful school, and I know curriculum must have been part of that. What's like the general idea, structure of curriculum from your viewpoint?
I think there's many ways to do it. I think it depends on when you're starting a school. So like if you're starting a school from the beginning, it's really difficult to not have a rotating curriculum with no instructors. Because the fact that if you're trying to teach the sections, like you're trying to have a Kali program and a JKD program, I taught mine as a phase type of program. We had separate arts and we rotate even with the kids monthly. So I would do striking, And so they might have like, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2 to a kick, the 4 counts, the Thai boxing 4 counts. As they went up in rank, it might be the elbow blitz, it might be clinching. And then they would test and get a stripe at the end
Okay.
of the month. Um, then it might go in the Kali. And so for Kali, it might be like the Largo Mano drill. So you hit the hand, you make an X. You hit the hand, you do a double redonda, whatever it may be. It might be inside outside deflection off of the Cinco Terros. Get to the end of the month, you test, review, you get a stripe. And we go to the grappling, it might be escaping side control, it might be guard to a sweep, whatever it may be. And then you would do a stripe test, and then it was like whatever material, like once you got a certain number of stripes, you doubled up on the stripes, so you did each month twice. Then it was like you test, and then for a belt, and then it would go up in rank. Intermediates, it was like every 3 times. I found that worked for me. I know some people do a lot of linear progression curriculum, but I just think the linear progression curriculum works well, but I feel like you need to have multiple instructors, because as you know, if you have, say like 4 different ranks learning 4 different things, if you're 1 or 2 people, it's tough to give them that attention. That's where I think Brazilian Jiu Jitsu does have an advantage, because you're sort of learning everything together, and it's not, belt ranks aren't necessarily predicated on having these set techniques. You still might need those techniques, but you get them over time with rolling. So you can do
Right.
a technique, the whole class rolls, or do it. Even in Thai boxing to a certain extent, they're doing their bag drills, they're doing it, and then you can come over and make slight corrections. Ours is a little bit challenging because it is such a plethora of material. So like I found for me, when I did the kids, I did more of a rotating, it was still linear, but a rotating curriculum, about 3 ranks per group. And then with adults, I tried to do the more traditional way of doing it. But if I had to do it again, and when I'm doing my small group of people, it's
Hmm.
more of my youth curriculum, to be honest,
Right.
leaving more time to experiment. Because believe it or not, it's funny. I gave more when I taught the adults in Bethel, more material, but they weren't necessarily better. My kids were better because we sparred all the time. We drilled all the time because they
Right.
didn't have as much material. So if they were doing stick drills, half the class is just pad stick sparring, hand sparring, or different drills. Where the adults, it was like, okay, we got to do these strikes, these combos, these disarms. So if I did, now that I'm doing it with the guys, we're still doing the material, but I'm like, let's spar with this. Let's drill this in a different way rather than just dumping this on it. And they see it, at least for my guys, it seems like they're enjoying it. Again, it's a much smaller group, so I could spend more time on it. But I would say that was the thing with curriculum is I feel like JK, like our group, because there's
Yeah.
such a vast group, amount of material, how you break it down. And really, again, how many instructors you have versus if you don't. If you're starting out, you probably can do a linear progression curriculum because you don't have many. But once you start getting multiple ranks, it's tough to run from this group and teach a few things and run this group. That's why I feel sometimes a rotating curriculum works better. But again, only my opinion.
And you guys got the rotating curriculum from Dave Kovar. Do you know? Do you know where it came from?
You know what's funny? I don't know if the Dave. I got a lot of things from Dave Cover. He had a very good life skills like type of after class.
Right.
I forgot what he called them, but it was like each time and then he had a really good one on safety tips. I still to this day use it. It was just excellent.
Okay.
It's not dated at all. It's still very relevant.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the rotating curriculum through him. It probably was. I mean, he brought a lot of things. What's a funny aside is my original Kempo teacher is
I
his
was going to
teacher.
ask you what you started in.
Yeah. Bruce Jutnik in Kosher
No
Kempo.
way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so he was Dave Kovar's teacher, and actually Bruce Jutnik was one of the first gringos to really do Filipino martial arts
Yeah.
with the old
So
group
so
Serrata.
you were Inasano connected, and you didn't even know you were Inasano connected through Bruce
No, I
Justice.
didn't, and I guess he was best friends with Guru Dan's first cousin. He knew all these people in Stockton. It was
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so and he has deep Guru. Hanchi Jutnik has a deep respect for Guru Inosanto.
Oh
They
yeah.
taught together. I think they taught together the last time many years ago when Victor Detorres was still alive at one of his seminars. But I mean, he speaks very highly. He has
Yeah.
a deep respect and love for Guru Dan. And Hanchi Jutnik is a legitimately very, 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 very good martial artist.
Yeah.
Excellent.
A lot of Kempo people that I have come across have a special affinity for Inasano.
Yeah.
I've found that, you know.
I think what's another funny aside. I think Joel's teacher, old Kempo teacher. I think he was telling me. was a student of Bruce Jutnick too. I think Joel told
Really?
me that at one time. Yeah, it's a funny degrees of separation. That's the thing. I think at that time when they all came up, the martial art world was very small,
Right.
especially on the West Coast. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. I do. Talking about West Coast, I always found it interesting um, that right around the same time on the East Coast, that Jun Rhee started to think in terms of expansion was the same time that his erstwhile business advisor on the West Coast, Bruce Lee, taught minimalization.
right,
You know,
right,
close the schools, go into the backyard. Right around the same time that Jun Rhee was thinking about making Taekwondo big, right? But isn't it interesting that Bruce Lee gave him business advice about how to popularize Taekwondo and how to shoot the TV self-defense show, and to make sure that you own the property, and Bruce Lee had notes on how to run a successful martial arts school and never did anything with it.
right.
But it was on his mind. Did Carlos ever tell? Did you meet Carlos when you went to Ryan's place?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Did
That's the
Carlos
first time I
tell?
met Carl.
Did he tell you the story about Bruce Lee's bookshelves?
No.
Okay. Carlos sends me a video one day. This is more than 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, right? Sends me a video, and the headline is Proof, right? And what it is, it's this, it's a European documentary about Bruce Lee, and Linda Lee is in front of the camera, and then the camera pans away from her to the bookshelves, and there you see Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, um, the Beyond Positive Thinking, Beyond the Power of Positive Thinking, and all that stuff, and then there are the books on how to raise yourself through selling, how a salesman can increase sales, right? And we're like, we knew it.
That's the thing. That's the thing. What I find interesting about when people bring up the monetary issue of JKD, because Bruce Lee was selling himself at all times.
Yeah,
And what more is wanting to be a movie star than selling yourself, selling your persona? I mean, he
yeah,
didn't want to go and not make money and not make successful movies. So you could sit there and say, okay, well, he didn't want to do that with the martial arts. But I also think his mindset wasn't to expand it because I think he wanted to focus just on himself. A
but
lot of people bring up the fact that he shut the schools down, right? They use that as a fact that he shut all the schools down because he wanted to keep the quality high. It also could be the fact that they weren't making money and he was moving halfway around the world to another country to focus completely and utterly on becoming a movie star. His focus wasn't
right.
on that at that moment. I mean, from everybody who says in that last stages of the last year or two of his life, it was physical training and he was doing his own thing, hitting the bag and doing that. But he wasn't teaching, he wasn't
Right.
developing the art as much. So,
And he intended to make his money through martial art. It might have been the medium of movies, but he definitely intended to make his money off martial art. So if one of his followers does something similar, what's the big deal?
yeah,
And
I
the,
never, yeah,
and you hit the nail on the head about the schools. The schools could not pay for themselves. Well,
right,
that's not a good business structure. You got to be able to at least make rent. And
right.
if you can't, if you got to pay rent out of pocket,
I
you're
mean,
doing
the
something wrong.
double edged sword is if these arts like if these arts were not commercially taught, then they would not be as accessible to as many people. We wouldn't be able to do them. Like if Guru Dan was teaching, but he was like, I'm just going to keep it in the backyard. I'm not
Right.
going to offer seminars. You wouldn't be involved. I wouldn't be involved. All these people wouldn't be involved. They would have never gotten the great benefit and helped all the people we've helped, right? If
Well,
jujitsu,
I would have been, because in March of 1976, when I saw this magazine, right, I got bitten by a bug, and so I would have found him. right?
Yes, I see
I
what
would
you're
have traveled
saying.
down and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would have found him.
I guess on a scale. I
I know
guess
what you mean. I
like
know
on
what
a
you mean.
scale. And I
Yes.
feel like, that's the double. So yes, you commercialize some things. You have to bring it down to the level of allowing people to understand it or accessible to the public, and certain things aren't. Or I get it, because that's a business. That becomes the business side of it. But if we don't have these commercial and we don't offer them for a pay to play,
Mhm.
they're just not going to be there for people. And we see that the proof is in the pudding, in arts that are so closed door that they're dying out. You have kung fu systems that are so closed door, I can't find a good disciple, that now they're in their 80s, they're dying off, and the art itself, and that's a shame. So I feel that we need to be just open to the idea. We are in the West. This is a free market. That's how the martial arts works. The only thing I would personally like to see, I feel like it's a great vehicle to help a lot of people who are at risk to go down a bad path. Young men specifically who can, or in environments that could lead to violence, drug abuse,
Yeah.
all these things, who don't have male role models. And combat sports specifically, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, even the arts we teach correctly, I feel that there should be an avenue for people to collectively get together, create something so that we can offer instruction to those people in those neighborhoods and those communities, to help them and not have it be a monetary thing. That's just my belief. I know that there's some people doing that in jiu-jitsu. They finally stood up and said, we're going to do it. We're not going to wait around and do, a damn GoFundMe. We're going to create it. I really think that's the missing link in the martial art, professional marketing martial arts world. They need to step back and service those people too. Because if we're going to sit there and say martial arts is for everyone, it enhances your life, it can't just be for somebody who's driving their Tesla, coming in and paying $250 a month. It's got to be for those people who are living in a community like South Phoenix, where I'm from, South Side of Chicago, East Los Angeles, wherever it may be, who don't have that father figure in the home, who are going to join a gang, or they're going to get abuse drugs, or end up in jail, or not get the best life experience they can. Martial arts is that vehicle. We should figure out a way. That's a call to everyone. Call me. I would love to figure out a way to do it, that we could provide those services to those types of people and not have to worry about it being about the money aspect. But outside of that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a business. That's inevitably going to happen. Just teach to the best of your ability, and
Right.
give your students the product that they deserve.
How did you develop? Because I don't know if it was my post and you and Carlos were going back and forth. I think it was his post, but it was about having kids and being a father and family. And now the way you're talking about extended family, where does that affinity for humankind come from?
I didn't get it. Listen, I got that from my parents. I mean, I had an older father. My dad is 94. I'm 52. So he had me when he was 40. I had my daughter when I'm 40. And I
Wow.
blessed myself every day. Like, I hope I can walk her down the aisle. I'm not crawling. Um,
Wow.
but I just had good parents. I had a good network of people. I had both parents in the home. I was raised to listen. My parents are of that generation. They had their own prejudices and things, but I was raised to just be like, you have to be a good person. At the end of the day, this is not that hard. Treat people with
Right.
respect. Like I said, I've
Right.
made every mistake. I've been an a-hole. I've been a hater. I still have a terrible sense of humor. I can be, quick to anger. But like at the end of the day, this is, like I said, it's not rocket science. Like, be a good person. And I think with kids, like, what really gave me appreciation when I shut my school down, I had a very different level of compassion for people that train. Because before then, be like, what? You can only make it one time a week. You're not training, you're not practicing. And then when I had to go into the regular working world, and I had my kids, and I had to pick them up because I couldn't use the excuse that I had to school and I was doing, X, Y, and Z. I
Uh,
really realized, wow, this is a lot harder. And my compassion for people and our students who pay those bills and come in and they're working hard jobs and they have 3 or 4 kids, it opened it up and said, wow, these people really have to work hard to make training work within their life. But I mean, to go back to reason, why are we training? I mean, once you get past learning how to defend yourself, right? Let's be real. Vunak talked
right.
about, once you have a few tools that you can use, why are we training? We're training for a multitude of different reasons for people, but we're training because we love it, because we enjoy it. That's something Rick Faye said one time I thought was so profound, and people think it's the dumbest thing. Rick Faye's like, we do this because it's fun, because we enjoy it. Like, that's the number one thing. Are you enjoying this?
Right.
I mean, what the hell are we doing this for?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not. Most people aren't making a ton of money. Most people aren't prize fighters. If you're a prize fighter, you're a police officer, law enforcement, you're in military personnel, and you need these skills to keep you alive or doing it, I understand that. But once you get past that, why are you doing this? And if it doesn't make you have a little bit of compassion or make you think a little differently about people or put a little spring in your step to like be better,
Right.
then honestly find something that will. Because
Yeah.
like again, life's too short. Go paddle board, go climb a mountain, go bike, go play video games. I'm not judging. I'm just saying. But like Guru is a great role model. He's a good guy. He's a good human being. He's humble. He cares about people. He's sincere. You know, there's nothing fake about him. So it's easy to look at the people that you're close to. Chuck's the same way. Harley's the same way. Kara's the same way. Carlos Castro's the same way. Joey Morale, like I said, one of the nicest people on the face of the earth. He's a sweet human being. You have people like that, and you see him. You say to yourself, okay, this is what I want to model. This is what I want to be. And you fall short because we're all human and we make mistakes. But the reality is we aim toward that. I don't know if I answered your question. I just rambled, but that's
Joy,
it's really my parents, it's
Yes.
my family, and it's being able to, and I consider myself blessed because I could have ended up with, like, I was very lucky that everyone that I ended up with was pretty good as a teacher, right? Not just pretty good, but like great as a teacher, right? I ended up with Chuck. I mean, I could have ended up with a lot of different people. Then I ended up with Harley. Then Guru Dan. That's a pretty damn good hierarchy. My Brazilian jiu-jitsu teacher, same thing. Like I've been lucky that way. And I consider it lucky. I'm a very blessed person. I've been very lucky to have the right people at the right time in my life to set a good example. So that's all it is.
All right. Okay. All right. On that note, I'm going to let you go start your weekend.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay.
I love this. I love this. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on.
Oh, for sure. Now I'm hoping, since you've come on, those people you kept, because I am pretty sure years ago I got in touch with Chuck Giangreco about coming on the show, and I heard nothing from him.
He'll come on.
Sure, right?
Nathan will be a hard thing to crack. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even really think to ever go on. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
Tim Berkshire was wanting to get me on his, and I said no. Now I feel bad. I'm going to have to do that, but because I just do not like. But even though I talk like this, I don't enjoy necessarily being out there like that. But Carlos is like, no, I think you guys would click and say it, and then Nate was like, yeah, I think you have a lot to say, and I just felt like, you know what? After all the stuff that I've been reading, going out, Grew down, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to say what it is because I'm a nobody. And I don't really care if it comes toward me. If they want to send me hate mail or whatever, I'm going to say what I have to say. You know, birds have to fly, fish have to swim, and I have to be me. That's all there is to
it. Yeah, I will want you to when we close this up to go through the comments though, and if there's anything you think you need to reply to, go ahead and do that.
Right. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, well, I guess I'll run into you in March of next year then.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be. I'm going to either be there. I'll be there sometime when you're there. Either there or the Magda Institute. We were definitely going to hook up. We'll see each other.
Yeah, we'll see Cass in December for the Wooden Dummy thing, and I cannot recommend him highly enough for anybody who is truly an Inasano student should check him out, because we have a saying: you can take the Magda out of the Inasano Academy, but you cannot take the Inasano out of the Magda.
Right.
Yeah, you cannot do it. You cannot.
I really do want to meet him. I just have no idea the horrible things that Nathan Maroney has said to him about me. He's like, yeah, he mentioned you. I made a comment one time, and I probably misinterpreted what Harley had said, and it was something with the sword. And Nate went and said it to him, like, oh, are we hitting the shoulder capsule here? And he said that Cosmog shot him a look like, who the hell told you that? And I was like, I'm like, I can't show my face now. He's going to be like, who are you, the guy that did that? So I'm only imagining. I know they said good things. I really do want to meet him. There's a lot of people I want to meet, yourself included. So I know that will happen in the future.
Well, keep Titans, I mean, I'll do some selling. Titans of JKD, Chris Kent and Cass Magda. You want Inosano lineage? Can't do much better than that.
Right.
You know, so that's why Ron and I had the idea. We talked to them. They were like all for it, and it was really successful last year. So we'll do it again in February. So, you know, we're doing what we can to make people available for everybody who's interested.
Yeah, like I said, if I can, it's tough to get out and fly and get over there. But if I can,
Yeah,
I know Nathan and them are going to go, and Greg.
yeah.
So I'd like to meet up with everybody and do that. That would be wonderful.
All right. Okay, my friend. Thanks so much for doing this. I really
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Dwight. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too,
Bye,
man.
everybody.
What a cool guy, huh? All right. Okay, that was episode number. What was that? Was that 314? 313. Shoot, did I call it out wrong? Yeah, 313 with George Chaber. So, like I said, you guys go ahead and make your comments. I'll have George, and I will also go through the comments and see if there's anything we need to reply to. We just talked about Titans of JKD for Saturday and Sunday, February 1st and 2nd next year. Go to titansofjkd.com, and all the preliminary information is there. You can support me and the show over at jkdrebel.com. Click on the Rebel Gear link, and that's where you'll see stuff like this: the Unified Martial Art Academy official Kali JKD t-shirt, t-shirts like the JKD notables, and the 4 tenets of Jeet Kune coffee mug. Everything is available in various forms: t-shirt, coffee mug, sweatshirt, long sleeve, short sleeve, all that good stuff. Also, you can get a copy, raw but edited, of the Jeet Kune Journey, Volume 1, at paypal.me/unified Miami, paypal.me/unified Miami. There you go. paypal.me/unified Miami. And you can be a paid subscriber to the YouTube channel. Just click on the join link. That if you're over on the YouTube right now, it should show up right there, and you'll see the different levels of membership and what have you. And that is it for me for another week. And so until the next episode, if I could get my hands on my controls here. Okay, until the next episode, you guys enjoy your weekend. This is Dwight Woods of JKD Rebels signing off. Take care. Talk soon.